so great, but it's still pretty great. Reading. It used to have lights, but it didn't have lights. New, with LED lights. Pagoda. Did they really say that? They did not say that. Yeah, they did say that. That's what she said.
Well, hello and welcome back to another fabulous episode of That's What She Said. I do have some house cleaning things. Well, first, I have a surprise for the ladies. It's true. I'm wearing the schmada. I'm tired of hiding it. Tattoos are addictive. So, yes, ladies, I have gone and gotten another one. So,
that is
finally unveiling it here. It goes on and on forever. Here, go on now.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't it wonderful?
Nice.
It says you should love someone and let them love you back. It's the most political act you can make. It's the only one that really changes the world.
I like that.
That is a quote from a dear friend of mine, Penny Arcade. Now, enough with that. We do have to let you know that this is a live program, so you can call in. The number is 610-378-0426. That's 610-378-0426. Or tweet us at She Tweets to Me. Sheila will be watching the She Tweets to Me line.
Watching it.
Also, another house cleaning thing. Comcast is changing its cable lineup, so starting October 16th, viewers can watch BCTV on Comcast Reading Channel 2. Not number 1, but we are number 2. We love that. So, that's starting October 16th. Also, you can get all the latest information about what's happening in the Berks County, in Berks County, by tuning into BCTV on Comcast Reading Channel 2 or online at bctv.org. Now, perhaps you have seen... we should do introductions. I was getting so excited about the guest today. Sheila.
Me, Sheila. Sheila Harrington.
Is this a new thing, or is this
no, same one. I'm almost done, though.
All right.
All covered.
Yeah, it's going to be huge.
It will serve as our backdrop.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm Ellen. And I'm Martha.
And I'm Kira.
And we are That's What She Said. Now, a little later in the program, we are going to be visited by Will Dexter from the Taylor Backus Glass Studio. But before we do that, we're going to show you a few clips from our little jaunt out to his studio. So let's start the show with one of those. Roll it. Hello. Here we are. We're heading out for an outing at the Glass Blowers. What's it called?
Taylor Backus Glass Studio.
Taylor Backus Glass Studio. We're very excited. You'll see I have a little mask here. I have a little... I think it's the swine flu, actually. So I'm trying not to infect my fellow ladies. So we're actually running late, so we should get on. We'll see you soon.
So we're on our way to Boyertown. And what's your friend's name, Martha?
My friend's name is Will Dexter, and I've known Will for about 15 years. He is a glass artist. He's taught at Temple. He is an amazing man, one of the nicest people I know.
Yeah, like the artists that I know that work in glass, so like the famous ones like Chihuly, which do the big, huge things. And what kind of things does he do, like specifically?
He does some very large pieces. He has a signature in his pieces that you will see. He uses some gold leaf glass within the piece. And I've seen his glass. Saw a piece of his glass in North Carolina one time in Asheville, and went in and checked, and it was in fact Will's piece.
I will not mention Chihuly. It'd be like going to Rembrandt's house and talking about Thomas Kincaid or something.
Well, it would be best not to mention Chihuly because Will has some very strong opinions about Chihuly, but an interesting, wonderful person who never started out as being a glass artist. He will probably tell you he's from New England and went to Florida to study marine biology.
Oh.
How'd you get for blowing in an aquarium?
Yeah, the meeting of all the interests, right?
And Will's wife is also a glass artist. He will tell you about her. She has a piece in the Smithsonian.
You think? You're talking on the way over about how excited you were.
I'm very excited. I'm so excited. I'm sad that the furnace isn't up, but there's going to be a lot of fun stuff for us to do.
It's an easy place to get to, and when he will let you know when the furnaces are up. If you come down, he will let you go right back there and watch him work.
It tastes like goat.
It does taste like goat. I'm excited to go. I'm only out of bed because we are going to this, but I'm not going to be my usual vivacious self today because I'm suffering from an ague and, well...
Jane, even at your lowest point, you are delightful.
Oh, well, thank you, darling. I wish I felt delightful, but I could just drop, and that would be fabulous. Oh, look, she's setting up a buffet for us. Fabulous. Oh, wonderful.
Here we are.
That's it. Certainly getting it.
Another adventure.
Here we go. Earlier, but what it was in the Weekender, I think 2 weeks ago, was it? Weekend at the Reading Eagle. There was a piece about one of Will's business endeavors, the Glass Tears, and we'll find more about that when he comes to join us. Now, we have to deal with this quickly. I hear that, Ellen, that you have fleas.
It naturally goes to that, right?
Well,
Now, sliding over.
Yes. Now, yes, look at how everybody is moving away. My dear friends. Yes, we have had fleas. Let's put it that way. And the reason why this might be topical is I think a lot of people have had this problem this year. It's been particularly a bad year for these little buggers that get in there and kind of can make your life very miserable. I'm going to blame it on the mild winter last year that just never zapped the eggs. And so, if you have the problem, and it could be that you have brought the problem into your house, it could be that your pets have brought the problem into your house, or it could be that they just kind of hopped in on their own. But anyway,
sometimes they just like to say, "How did you do?"
Yeah, that could be.
Now, maybe they come in on the backs of the stink bugs.
Well, the stink bugs kind of went outside this summer. They're moving back in now.
How did you find out you had fleas? I mean, you didn't really have fleas.
I sat on the floor and they hopped on me.
Really?
Yes,
wow.
okay.
You can actually
And,
see
oh my goodness, yes.
Oh, no.
And it's not an easy problem to overcome.
Indeed. They're very small. To get down there and pick them
Well,
up.
you aren't going to solve it that way because they lay eggs, and those eggs
I hear that
hatch in another couple of days or a couple of weeks. You can't even predict that. There's not a.
And your bug man is a friend of our show.
He is, and he just might be calling in later.
Oh my goodness!
We share a bug man.
Ah.
And he's wonderful.
So, there are things one should share, and I think never mind.
What's a bug man between friends?
But you have to treat the house, and probably most of the commercial products are no longer working because these little buggers have been evolving and they are no longer sensitive to the old poisons. It takes something that, we had to call in Ehrlich's in order to take care of it. And we had to go to the vet in order to have the dog taken care of. And as for me, once those two are taken care of, I think I'm all right.
And how is the lovely Mona?
Oh,
they have gotten this a wonderful, huge Burmese mountain dog. It's like a carpet. It would fill this whole studio. We actually should have her all.
We will do that sometime. We will.
Oh, Mona.
But now that the fleas are gone, I think the stink bugs are back, and the squirrels are coming in. Mice are coming in.
You can smell the stink bugs. All of a sudden, the other day, for the first time in months, you could smell them. There's somewhere they have that. They have that.
Well, I thought you only can smell them if they squash them.
No,
I don't know.
Without squashing them.
I'm a city girl. They don't have stink bugs in New York.
We'll bring you some.
Oh, no.
But anyway, there's always some sort of critter to be concerned about.
All right. Well, we shall keep our eyes out for fleas and all things that go bump in the night.
And things that stink.
Well, should we hear a little bit more about Will?
Oh, yeah.
Let's hear a little bit more about Will and his creative process. Roll that tape. So cool.
I do have a marine feel about things.
Super cool.
I'm terrified.
This is Will Dexter. James Street.
Hello.
I'm sorry, I have a swine flu.
That's fine. What's your name?
James Street.
Hello.
I'm Ellen Gallagher.
Hello.
And Sheila, hi.
Hi, Sheila.
Dying to get you. I have.
Well, welcome. Glad you're here. Oh, by the way, this is Etta. Etta is responsible for how you see what you see here. I can go in and make what I want. I can work the way I want to. The people that work with me can do that too, within reason. I mean, we have to be pragmatic, but it's an amazing thing to be able to have an idea and then pursue that idea. I was told I didn't have a future in art because when I was in 6th grade, Carol Kaufman could draw a perfect horse, and I couldn't draw dog do. I couldn't do anything. And so I was reprimanded by the teacher and told to just forget about art. And so my drawings to this day, most of my ideas are generated and sourced to paper with words. I do a lot of associative word work to tell me what I want to do in 3 dimensions. I can think 3-dimensionally, I work 3-dimensionally, so if I have an idea, I can do a rough sketch, but I'm most comfortable in 3D. Turn them in. I see faces everywhere. Most people do, they just don't admit it. I can be sitting in a room of knotty pine and I'll see a cast of character. Everybody does that.
Yeah.
But most people don't reckon with it. This was for no one else. This is just me. And some people isolate a style and they stick with it for 20 or 30 years. I do something and then I want to do something else. I've discovered that sometimes I'll do work and 15 years later, suddenly people want it. And luckily I didn't throw it away.
There's so much in the art training world, especially when you're young, that says if you can't draw, you're not artistic.
I know.
And for me myself, I can't draw. I can take a piece of clay or something and make something, but if I try to do some 3-dimensional thing on paper and make it look, or even 2-dimensional and make it look like that, it doesn't look like that. And so you're told all your life that, well, you're wrong.
Yeah.
No, I'm just me.
That's right. I have to learn to draw. But is it what I long to do? Generally not. Other people just draw incessantly. And
it's just a shame that it's such the baseline of any education, it seems.
Yeah.
Welcome back. He's an amazing man. I can't wait to have him here. He's somewhere between here and Boyertown at the moment. I don't know where. But at any rate, there's a rumbling, and I think it's going to take a fuller episode to discuss it. But I think we need to touch briefly on the whole issue of arts education in school, because I think our arts and music art, they're often the first to be cut from school budgets, and I think the world is a poorer place without these type of influences in a child's life. So we have some educators here. We have some Kira deals and she deals regularly with children at her bookstore, and Sheila knits, and Sheila teaches as well.
Hey, I do teach as well.
So, and
I think
as a teacher, I can tell you that I had students that art saved, like sports, keep some kids in school. For some of the people that I worked with at the high school level, being able to go to an art elective every day kept them going for the rest of the day. It was where they could be themselves, where they could express themselves in a way that they were comfortable doing. I think because budgets are so constricted today, schools are focusing on emphasizing the courses or the subjects that are being tested with the state achievement test, and art isn't tested and music isn't tested, but its influence on other subjects and how well students do in them has been proven through research.
And it is also the way that students learn to solve problems. It's not just learning information, but then applying. And as you are applying, you're finding that, okay, this didn't work the way I thought it would. This didn't come out. The song is not quite right. And so you have to adjust. You have to think through it, and you have to solve problems. And it's one way that students do that.
Plus, it's a calming influence.
Absolutely.
To be able to take part of your day and just focus on something that you love.
Creative.
That feeds your soul rather than your intelligence.
Right.
And it can feed your intelligence as well. But the soul is so important to life. But especially in a young person, if that soul is tamped down, I think it doesn't bode well for a young person's future.
And even though many of the local school districts are retaining their art and music and phys ed and library programs at the present time, that doesn't mean that all of this will continue, because as there is more and more emphasis upon students achieving, there are some places where art and music teachers are being told, well, put a little biology into your class. How about covering some chemistry?
Well, actually, if we organized our curricula as thematic, where it was interdisciplinary, so if we're teaching conflict, which seems to be a big issue today, if we're teaching conflict, we could talk about the literature of conflict, as well as the history, as well as the math and the chemistry and the music, for instance, and the art that was pertain to, if we're studying World War II, the music and the art that came out at that time.
It's often forgotten that everything
is related.
Everything is an organism.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
This show is an organism.
Right.
We live and breathe with each other, and life is like that.
And nothing stands without something else supporting it.
And as you have said, it is a much larger subject, and I'm sure many of our viewers are thinking about, well, okay, it affects our taxes, it affects the amount of time our students spend in school, the amount of equipment they need, the amount of supplies they need, and but there are so many different issues that we have to think about, and as you said, maybe it's a good idea to get to this as a broader subject sometime, and I'm sure there are many people out there who would love to address the subject.
And not just to talk about the arts generally, not just music and visual art, but drama and
well, here we go with a gentle segue provided gracefully by our wonderful producer, Jamie. Let's roll that next tape about Will's educational background.
Well, let me just tell you, this past May marks our 25th year. We've been in this building 25 years. I fell in love with the place the first time I walked in. It was completely derelict. It was a mess, leaking and so forth. But the industrial flavor and then the concrete annex that's ideally suited for a glass-blowing studio just all made sense. So I got very lucky, and I got the place. I've been working with glass for 38 years. I was in college. I thought I would be either a marine biologist or a psychologist or a linguist. Those were my passions. If you can have a passion when you're basically just post-pubescent. I was I was having a little too much fun when I was in college, so the labs became an issue. They were in my way. And at the same time, a couple of my friends who were in the arts, I took an art course, and that led to another one. You know, you start off on something simple, and it leads you to harder, worse things. So I started with some painting and drawing, and wound up deciding, literally in a moment's bolt of light, that I wanted to learn about glass. So I was in Florida. It was May. I made phone calls all over the United States. A month later, drove from Florida to Helena, Montana. And I thought I was going to be on a mountainside with grizzly bears. Helena's actually a pretty nice town. And I worked at a ceramics foundation, which for a very brief time had glass as a program. I took a 3-week workshop in 1974 and never looked back. There to Wisconsin, to Seattle, ultimately realized that I wanted to complete my education. So that's when I moved to Tyler. I already knew people in the program at Tyler from my time spent out west. And so I drove cross country. They had a place, we lived at a place called Rainbow Farm, and I'm still in touch with some of these people. I mean, this place was a hotbed of creative people, many of them working in glass as their field. And so that's how I got here in a circuitous way. When we moved to Boyertown and started this business, we wanted to be able to make work that was way, way more accessible to the public than the work we were doing as our own, as ourselves. We needed an alias. And so my mother's maiden name was Taylor. Carla's mother's maiden name was Bacchus. We get calls all the time from people who know Taylor personally.
Can we now say that?
Yeah.
Oh, you see how it really is important to just follow your dreams, and because many times you don't know what your dreams are, and sometimes they just sort of hit you in the head, and you got to go after it. Now, well, one, we have to let you know that our next episode, it would have been good if I would have prepared. Somebody look up when our next episode is. It's
the night before
November,
Thanksgiving.
The night before Thanksgiving, and all through the house there'll be dancing Santas and perhaps a mouse. Yes, we're planning a holiday extravaganza for you for our next show. It's the 21st of November. Remember, the 21st of November. Now, I've got a question. The other day, I was driving along in my little de chevaux, and by the way, this has inspired me. Now that I'm getting tattooed, I think I'm getting a Harley. I think so look out, I'm soon going to be zipping down the highway with my hair streaming out of my little helmet, of course, on my little bike. Anyway, so I was in my de chevaux driving down the West Shore bypass, and suddenly somebody zoomed in my thing, and my life flashed before my eyes. Now, it was quite fascinating, and I was enjoying it, and then I realized, well, I should get back to looking at the road. And yeah, naturally, I didn't die. Well, I almost died from the swine flu, but that's a different story. But I was interested, have any of you ever had a near-death experience where suddenly you thought it was going to all go away, and you saw that
almost
flash?
Daily driving in the Reading, Berks County area. Yeah, cell phones. It's one of the reasons I now drive a Jeep instead of a Buick or a Chrysler convertible, because I was so low that there's people in their navigators were just looking over me, talking on their cell phones. I had some really near-death experiences from that, and truck drivers who didn't see me. So yeah.
So you just got bigger.
I got
bigger and
higher.
Higher.
How about you, knitting lady?
I have. In fact, I had a terrible car accident years ago, and I fell asleep behind the wheel because it was 3 a.m. coming home from work, exhausted, and I fell asleep for a split second and woke up right as I crashed, and that was just it. So, I mean, I pretty much remember that, and that was about as near death as you can get.
Yeah.
Oh,
I severely damaged myself, but yeah.
Well, I'm
Wow.
That was
glad you
scary.
did survive.
I am too. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here knitting. this
Well,
blanket
indeed.
for us.
Is this a gift for us? Is this our Christmas
Yeah.
gift?
We'll find out.
That's right.
The joint snuggie.
With all sorts
Right.
of
I'm making
farms in
10
it.
sleeves.
How about you, Lisa?
I'm sorry?
How about you? Any-
Well, yes, my husband and I were involved in a very serious accident about 3 years ago. We were the meat and the sandwich, hit from behind and pushed into a car from the front. And fortunately, we're both just fine now. But at those moments, you just don't know what the next second is going to be like. So it makes you appreciate a lot of things. And yes, we are driving a bigger car because you feel more. It is more secure. It just absolutely is.
Yeah.
And how about you down there?
You know, I'm trying to think, and I almost hate to say it, but I'm not really.
Good.
You have those
Good.
times driving, I'm trying to think of that, and you just get the adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
But I think the closest I've ever come to really feeling like something horrible was going to happen has been like when I was in the ocean as like a kid. I was super daredevil, went out really far, always catching the waves, never had a surfboard or boogie board, just jumping in the ocean. There are plenty of times I got, kind of bowled over by a wave I didn't expect, and that's probably the closest I ever came to feeling like, or had the time to think. Usually when you're in the car, it's like a brief second, but like, you're just kind of under the waves for a bit. You have a little clarity,
Indeed.
a little horrifying clarity, but
I think it's important, yes, because I think we have to remember how precious life is, and
Every moment.
and enjoy living it to its fullest, and
Without our phones and
Without-
our steering wheel.
without our phones. This is a recurring theme on this show.
It really is.
Just contact with yourself and your environment. Keep the electronics away. All right, we're going to go back to Will and see how it's done. Roll that tape.
This is the furnace. The furnace is cool now. I'm sad to say. Actually, if it were hot, I wouldn't be standing here, first of all. And second of all, your camera would probably be melting in your hand. We had to work in August when it was 95 and 100 degrees outside. We have a thermometer in here and it was 130. And I brought in recruits, people who are really experienced, good glass blowers, good friends. And we had 60 pounds of block ice and towels and water, and I thought that I was going to have to take someone to the hospital with heat stroke because of that. I'm not entirely apologetic about not having the furnace running. Last time I lit up, I was on for a year, 24/7. It's prohibitively expensive to keep this on unless there's a big project or we're in our peak season. Pretend this is full of glass and I'm not burning my arm off because there should be a door here. Gather glass on a blowpipe. It's molten and liquid and dripping off. Keep the pipe turning. After about a minute and a half, it cools enough to become solid. If we want to, at that point we begin adding color to the glass because I melt clear. When it comes out of the furnace it's orange, but it's actually, when cool, it's clear. Then you go in and you take another dip and build layer upon layer until you have the mass that you want. And then you start blowing through the pipe. When a tool or when anything is red hot, glass will stick to it. Glass is just sticky like honey, but it will only stick to things that are hot. So this is red hot. You go in, coat it in a layer of glass, and then attach it to the bottom of this beautiful piece. And you get the whole piece. My new assistant. So you're holding this. I'm using jacks. I've cut it in, and there's a nice heat gradient. And then I hit the pipe, the glass breaks off, and now it's your piece. This is used to shape the glass. And you scale the block to how much glass is at the end of the pipe. You come over here. These are called glory holes. They run just during the day. The furnace runs all the time. The glory hole runs hotter than the furnace. It runs at about 2200 to 2300 degrees. The only thing it does is heat our glass. So we work the glass for anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes, depending on the thermal mass, which is how much thickness there is. And then we reheat. Then finally, it's time to take this off. Use a drop of water and a little bit of heat here. And you get to help me again. Okay. Now we're talking about that. Well, yeah. Why don't we pretend you have Kevlar gloves on? Okay. And I'll break it off. You catch it, and then I'll run over. Your hands are beginning to smoke. Boom! It's in there for 2 days. Well done.
Oh, thank you very much.
And we do cook with everything in here, by the way. I hosted a wine tasting, and we cooked using hot glass. We made pasta and sausage and bread and roasted garlic and roasted tomato using molten glass. Really fun. We'll have to do that sometime.
I want to go to a dinner like that. That would be amazing. Now, Jamie, our dear producer, has written something here, and I can't remember what exactly the connection is, nor can any of the panel. We're discussing Halloween traditions because, of course, we won't have an October show because we're bi-monthly, and, well, I'll do this now. Just a reminder, we are on every other month. Our next is November 21st at 9 o'clock. And just as a reminder, on October 16th, BCTV is moving on the Comcast channels to Comcast Reading Channel 2. So, there we go, to Channel 2. Well, he has written here, Halloween traditions, and woman locks herself in a freezer. And for the life of us, we can't remember how these two things relate. So, what are your Halloween traditions, and when do you lock yourself into a freezer?
That came about when we were talking about last Halloween is when we had that terrible storm.
Yeah,
and limbs were down, and we had a huge limb across our front porch that was removed just in time for the Halloween trick-or-treaters.
But did you lock yourself?
No. But then we were talking about Katrina.
Yes.
And a woman who saved herself in the terribleness of Katrina by locking herself in the freezer. Wasn't that it?
I thought actually doing a tornado.
Or a tornado?
Yes.
In New York, I thought you said.
Well, we had kind of figured out that maybe because it was at the time of the tornadoes in New York.
Right.
And then Jamie, who comes from Florida, said, no, it would have had to have been in Florida.
Oh, wait. Florida. This is the thing. We looked up and it was South Africa.
Oh, there we go.
Well, this woman was in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh.
There we go.
And it was during a tornado, and she thought it would be the safest place to be. They found her 5 days later.
Wow.
And she had frozen legs.
Oh.
Other than that, I guess she's...
So for all of us...
But it's nothing to do with Halloween.
Well, the way our minds worked, it did.
At some point in our past, these two things related somehow.
Don't try it at home.
No, don't try this at home.
But I bet you're wild for Halloween.
You know what? One would think, but I actually don't really do much. However, 2 years ago I started carving pumpkins for the first time, and I am psyched to carve my third pumpkin this year.
Fancy?
Yeah.
Do you really?
I do, and I bake the seeds and everything, and that is my favorite Halloween thing.
Is that Pepitos?
I don't know.
The
pumpkin seeds?
Yes.
I don't know. I have a friend who calls them bacon seeds because once they're roasted, he thinks they taste like bacon. So we call them bacon seeds.
I'm being told we have to move along to a break. Well, we will be back with you in just a few moments after we take a little break, and we are going to go from the break into our next Will Dexter segment, which will be showing you some work samples from his studio. We'll be right back.
BCTV.org. Be informed. Be involved. Be a member. For membership information, go to www.bctv.org/support/membership. For other stories and information, go to bctv.org.
Do you want to go on out?
A little tour first?
That would be great.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to show you some stuff, and I do it. Well, I want to show you new, old, everything. And we made the signage. So these glass blocks were mounted in walls, about 5 foot high. You see the brick walls.
Yep.
And under the blocks were LED lights, and each wall had our glass spelling the name of the community.
I'm afraid to move.
I know, I'm afraid to touch.
If I could, well, bull in the glass shop.
Sheila, here. I'll give you the camera and you can walk backwards and do it.
This is the piece that his wife did, and Will can tell you about the process that she developed or that she researched and has a piece, I believe, in Smithsonian. I just can't get my fill of it.
These are the archives, and in these archives are things that would probably be responsible for giving me the confidence and the impetus to continue pursuing glass. As part of the cabinet are pieces that I was doing when I first moved to Pennsylvania in undergraduate school. We've been fortunate to have jobs doing things like the Pagoda Awards, and we've done work for the Reading Hospital. We did the installation in the N wing, the new N wing at the Reading Hospital in the cardiology waiting room. I try to utilize what glass can do, the properties of glass, to capture and convey ideas. And in the case of the waiting room at the N wing, people are in that cardiology ward usually because of something that's a source of stress. Or they're in there because of stress. Take your choice. I wanted to put something in that space that was calming. I'm familiar with the ocean and oceanic imagery, and sitting on the edge of the sea can be extremely relaxing. And I've gotten testimonials sent to me from people who were in that wing, just explaining that that's exactly what happened. They went in, they were feeling uncomfortable, there was something the matter, and this gave them a sense of calm, and that's the best you can hope for. Then I started doing these heads. You can't tell these are heads, but I like making figurative work because a big molten blob of 2,000 degree liquid with a few deft moves will start looking at you. It talks back. Oh yeah, those heads were really fun. They're probably some of the more difficult things I ever did.
I was going to say, how do you make something like this?
I make plywood forms, and while my assistants are gathering glass, I get wet clay, and on the inside of the plywood clamshell form, I fabricate all of the expression using wet clay, coil-built wet clay. Then from above, we drop this huge bubble into the plywood form. Smoke, fire, steam starts belching out, and you blow and blow and blow until the clay has impressed itself into the glass. Then you open the plywood, and out you come with this giant piece of bubble head-shaped thing at the end of a blowpipe. I was going to tell you about glass tiers. These are our standard tiers. And these are cremation tiers. This was our early example. This is cremated remains embedded in the glass. But now we do it a different way. We make a hollow form, and then we heat the form to 200 degrees, and we heat the ash to 200 degrees so there's no moisture. And then we put the ash inside the tier and seal it. So many urns are so boring. And often they're either tacky, trite, or ugly, or all of the above. My mother-in-law is in a cast bronze turtle from China. I don't want that.
And I just want to remind you, before we move on, the number here at the studio is 610-378-0426, or at She Tweets to Me to tweet. Now, we have magically been joined, as if a big glass bubble broke, and here he is, Mr. Will Dexter. Thank you for joining us.
Yay. It's an honor. Thank you. And I have to say, the tour that I hosted when you were at the studio was so fun. It was really, it was a pleasure being prodded. You asked
we're nothing if not prodders.
Yeah. but it's good to be questioned by the outside world, because I live in my own little bell jar there, and suddenly I was being held accountable, and it's wonderful. I have to assess what I'm doing once in a while. So thank you.
Thank you for inviting us. It was
a lot of fun.
It was a magical day. I have a question. And this is just a really, well, there are no stupid questions, one says. Why are things orange when they come out of the fire? Why is something clear orange when it comes? Why does heat make things orange? You weren't prepared for that one, were you?
I absolutely wasn't. I had a plethora of analogies, and you threw them all out the window. Usually matches are blue when you light them, and by the time they're hot enough to burn your finger, they're orange. And I believe there's a master color coder for heat. And that color coder decided that anything hot should be orange because often it's a somewhat repellent color. A lot of people don't like orange. And so that would be my answer. It's completely
I like how you checked the
theoretical.
camera to make sure no one was wearing orange.
I don't know. I have to tell you, I made some very large heads years ago, and they were predominantly orange because I actually kind of like orange. And my wife was pregnant, and she had an immediate gag reflex. She would see one of my orange heads and literally have to run to the bathroom to heave. And so I think that my theory about the color orange may be truer than I realize.
Well,
does anyone have a real question?
Mr. Dexter? Not as scientific, but maybe more of an explanation. Do you have large projects on the horizon right now? Some things that you're excited about?
Large is a relative word. I'm excited about every project. I have an odd motto. You learn to love what you're doing because it's a gift. And so even things that aren't large and that could theoretically be somewhat mundane, you get excited about them, because if you're not excited, it's going to show through.
Is it true you're doing something at the Reading Museum?
Yeah, thank you. That was perfect, because I was hoping that I could stay on track. An honor project and a pleasure project and a somewhat large project is being delivered as we speak to the Reading Museum. Starting September 28th or 29th and going into January, the Reading Museum is featuring a show, museum-wide show called Gone Wild. Animals of every description, every purpose, just animals, suffice it to say. Anyway, so my role in that is I was invited to put glass animals into an atrium exhibit. So we've been making herons that are perusing the undergrowth and sawgrass. We've done mixed media work and turtles, fish, elephants, birds, what have you. So yeah, that's a project. There are a lot of things going on right now, and we're moving into our season, but unusually busy season, which is great. We have something called Burke's Best Kept Secrets. It's a tour.
We've done that tour.
Okay. Well, that's going to happen sometime soon. I don't remember the dates. There's something called Fall into Winter, which is basically a Boyertown event, and then there's the Reading Show. We're doing something at the Goggle Works. It's a craft show, something totally different from everything else we're doing, so that it keeps it diverse and that there's not really redundant activity.
Okay, sorry. This just reminded me. We have some of your work sitting right here. Tell us a little bit about these pieces.
Yeah, I thank Martha for bringing in a few props. The piece in the front is A squiggle. We have different names. It's sort of an icicle.
Sorry, you were actually going down. Here, let me put it back on the table.
Okay. We have an icicle. Every year we develop and produce a series of ornaments. We've been doing that for about 20 years. Some years we do 2 or 3 different ornaments, and we introduce them all the day after Thanksgiving. One year we introduced our squiggles, and they're actually very attractive icicles. Luckily, they work year-round. They're sun catchers, decorations, wonderful gifts, by the way.
And 3 of them hanging on a Japanese maple, a miniature Japanese maple in our garden.
Yeah, they survive outdoors. And so that, and the thing about our ornaments is once we introduce them, we continue to produce them year after year. It's fun for us to have as broad an array as possible. The piece behind that is called a pearl perfume bottle. The pearl perfume bottle it is an evolution from a purely sculptural form that had pearl quality to it, and I revert to functionality for some peculiar reason. I don't know what it is, but I was compelled to take a sculptural thing and turn it into a perfume bottle. So that's the story behind that. That was from a body of pieces I did in the early 80s. Behind that, we have a miniature drip bowl.
To the side, because yes.
The pieces I do in my studio often are very large. They can be close to 100 pounds. And often the big pieces are just not practical, nor are they easy to do, and we need to refresh ourselves once in a while, so we make smaller pieces. And it's great because people can actually deal with them, they can buy them, they can take them home. So it helps us and it helps the public.
I'm just in love with the color. I mean, if you go to Will's studio, and you should, in a moment we'll tell the viewers where that is. But the riot of color and shape and form that's all around you in the studio is amazing. Where can we see this studio?
You can find us at 2nd and Washington Street, 150 South Washington Street, specifically, if you're going to use a Google map, in Boyertown. And if you're using a zip code, it's 19512, next door to the Boyertown Post Office. You can park in front, beside, or behind the building.
And is the furnace on now?
The furnace is going to be lit tomorrow. Oh! I'm so excited.
And I will be up.
Yeah, we want to watch.
This will be the 25th year of lighting the furnace, and unfortunately we can't just have a big bash and light the furnace and open champagne, because it takes 5 days for it to heat up.
I think that's a lot of champagne.
That's a lot of champagne. We'll give it our best effort, though. And so by next week, by next Wednesday, I hope that we're blowing glass. And we welcome the public. We love visitors. We like to entertain groups. So, and we also offer classes.
Well, we're going to have Will narrate a little bit of his work. Here's a clip of from his studio.
Well, my first comment is ouch, because it's really hot. You have no idea that furnace, as we speak, is about 2,300 degrees, and we've stepped into the middle of the process. We began, as you saw earlier, I think I may have demonstrated during the visit, gathering glass, but we're finishing a piece that has already been broken off with a blowpipe, and every 2 minutes we have to reheat it, but we're manipulating the form now. We're really working hard to achieve a certain form that has a lot of movement, and it requires a fusion of finesse and just hard work. You may have noticed I pick up the front of the blowpipe near the heat, and one of my assistants is turning the back, and there's yet another person. This is in front of our big equipment. One person whose only job is shielding us from the heat of the glory hole. Now we're just stretching one side. This is all about form. Jane mentioned color. Well, glass is wonderful. I think probably more than any other material, it begs to be used with color because it's transparent to a greater or lesser degree, and it allows light to determine what you're seeing. It changes with every angle of light. It turns light into color. So now we're using a torch to distribute heat so that the whole piece is evenly heated. Otherwise, if one part's too hot or one part's too cold, it will break. Sometimes when the piece appears to be finished, we have to keep heating it and keep heating it and keep heating it, especially big pieces. Otherwise, it won't be evenly heated, and we'll break it off, which we're doing now. That's probably about 45 pounds. We're putting it into an oven. By the way, we build all of this equipment. Now it's locked in an oven that's 960 degrees. It will be in that oven for at least 3 days, cooling to room temperature.
Goodness, that's amazing. Have you, look at me, Miss Disaster, have you ever been in that process and had that beautiful thing in process and just dropped it?
All the time.
We were all talking, we were in your studio, and we were in the archive room, and twice we heard these crashes from out front. We were all like, oh my God. And we were just like that,
yeah, probably one of our customers.
Oh my goodness, that was shocking.
At least it wasn't us.
Yes.
I was curious about that outfit, that kind of hazmat suit. What is that made out of?
That's Kevlar that's coated with aluminum, and it's purely to protect us from the heat.
Yeah, sure.
I have some scars that aren't as pretty as your ink, and they are from radiant heat alone, not even being touched, but just being exposed to radiant heat. So if you are near a piece that big, carrying it the way I was carrying it, your skin would literally boil. It's pretty hot.
I'm at a loss for words. That image will stay with me for the night.
It's just amazing that something so delicate and gorgeously crafted can come out of something so dangerous. I just love that idea.
Yeah, we consider ourselves sort of extreme glass makers. Occasionally we go into the studio and we'll make a lot of drinking glasses and small tame things, and I have great respect for people who do that. It's a very, very specific and difficult skill. We go in and we just go crazy. We use lots of gathers of glass. We're handling 80, 90, 100 pounds, and we want to use our whole bodies and not just our fingers, and it's a much different kind of dance.
And that's one thing. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and the people who work with you, they obviously have a lot of training as well. Are they Tyler School products, or have you trained them, or?
All of the above.
Okay.
It depends on the crew. I've had so many different wonderful people. I almost reinvent the studio every time there's a turnover of staff. But presently, the people that work with me are people I met while I was teaching at Tyler, and now they work with me. And they're fantastic. Everybody, when you work as a team, everybody understands instinctively what needs to be done. Anybody could switch positions, and it really is ballet with this. It's like twirling.
This is one thing that
I've
Martha was talking about.
I've been in your studio when you were making some big pieces like that, and you had 2 or 3 other people working with you. And in fact, I was there one winter day, so you had the back door open to keep things cool. And there were 2 dogs that walked in and out, and they seemed to know exactly where they were to go. So there were all these 4 men moving about with these poles with hot glass on, dogs walking back and forth, and it was really one of the most beautifully choreographed ballets I've ever seen.
That's
it was
wonderful.
just, everyone had a sense of his own space and everyone else's space. It was just wonderful.
We're down to about 3 minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to impart? Certainly, it's been wonderful having you here.
First and foremost, thank you for having me. And I would invite everybody to come visit us. Our open house season begins the day after Thanksgiving, and we're open 7 days a week then. But up until that point, we're there at least 5 or 6 days a week. And you're mentioning the ballet and the dogs. I think that people just instinctively know to stay away from heat because they don't want to get burned. So that's why we're at ease having people come in and enjoy what we do.
And remind us the address?
It's 150 South Washington Street at the corner of 2nd Street in booming Boyertown, Pennsylvania.
And they will have a beautiful Christmas tree in their studio with all their ornaments. That just wonderful.
And then again, starting September 28th or 29th, there's the installation, which Will is part of, at the Reading Public Museum, Going Wild. And let's see.
May I get a different type of commercial?
Oh, yes, you may.
Which has nothing to do with glass blowing, but it
sorry.
certainly has to do with the creative process. Yes. On October 1st, at the Miller Center for the Arts, at 6:30, there will be a program that will be inducting the next 2 poets laureate of Berks County, Maria McDonald and Cian Carter. Cian is a student at Governor Mifflin High School, and Maria teaches at Albright. And 2 wonderfully creative women. And the program will also have some audience participation because we're doing a kind of What's My Line, only in this case it's going to be That's My Line, and the audience will have to guess who the real poet is. So October 1st, that's a Monday night, 6:30 at the Miller Center.
And then, go ahead.
And I think, Kira, you wanted to mention another October.
Yes, we have 2 great events coming up in October. Just real quick, on the 16th, we're doing our monthly local author open mic night, and we have local graphic artist Ben Caldwell. He's the author and artist of a lot of really neat graphic novels, good for kids and adults. So that's on the 16th at 6 p.m. And then on at the Wise Owl Bookstore. Of course, yes. at my bookstore at 624 Penn Avenue. And then on October 28th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. we're hosting, which I'm very, very excited about, A.S. King, who is a very well-known young adult author. Her latest book, Ask the Passengers, is out at the end of October. So we're hosting her, and she's going to talk about that and talk about writing and publishing 1 to 3 p.m. It's going to be really cool.
Now, everyone's going to have to remind me of these things before the show. Give them proper due, but we do have to wrap up. What? Oh, yes, we will put, Jamie's reminded me, we'll put all this information on the website, and we thank you for joining us again. Next episode is November 21st, and till then, have a wonderful fall, and we'll be with you. Take care. Thank you for tuning in.
Good night,
everybody. Good night. Oh, thank you.